See, we're kind of traveling forward in time here. You've heard from Sojourner Truth, and you've heard first from Frederick Douglass. And now you're about to hear from Frederick Douglass, as I said before, was the Martin Luther King of that time. H.4 Douglass. H.4 Douglass was the Malcolm X of his time. He didn't believe that Lincoln was really about freeing slaves. Frederick Douglass, who was a good friend of his, and even helped Lincoln get elected, he believed that he was about anti-slavery. But H.4 Douglass, no relation, he was also born a slave. He freed himself. He never became quite as famous as Frederick did, because he was a lot more radical, and he had a tendency to anger more people. And you're going to hear that in the next speech. Marcus Wilson will deliver that speech, and that speech was made in 1860.
There are a great many people in this country who seem to be in love with Stephen A. Douglas, the Democrat candidate, and to regard him as a great statesman. It seems to me that there are certain elements necessary to true statesmanship. In the first place, a statesman must have a heart. That is one of the essential elements of statesmanship. Now, who supposes that Stephen A. Douglas has a heart? I cannot account for the existence of so mean a man as Douglas, on any other theory than that of the transmigration of souls. It was held by one of the old philosophers of Greece that when a man died, somebody was born, and that the soul of the dead entered the body of the newborn. But when Douglas was born, nobody happened to die. But ladies and gentlemen, I had no intention of making these remarks. We are here for the purpose of celebrating the 4th of July. 84 years ago today, this nation had its birth. We stand today a governmental prodigy, surpassing in all extraordinary growth any of the states of ancient or modern times. But nations who seek success amid the possibilities of the future are not measured by the accumulation of wealth or by the breadth of territorial domain. For down beneath the glittering splendor which the jeweled hand of cirrhosis has lifted up to intoxicate the gaze of the unthinking multitude, there will be found a silent and resistless influence working its way beneath the surface of society and shaping the destiny of men. When John Adams wrote that this would always be a day of bonfires and rejoicing, he did not foresee the evils which half a century would bring. When his own son, standing in his place amid the legislators of the Republic, would shame posterity into brave indifference and empty ceremonies, John Quincy Adams said 20 years ago that the preservation, propagation, and perpetuation of slavery is the vital animating spirit of the national government. And this truth is not the less apparent today. Every department of our national life, the President's chair, the Senate of the United States, the Supreme Court, and the American pulpit, is occupied and controlled by the dark spirit of American slavery. We have 4 parties in this country that have marshaled themselves on the highway of American politics, asking for the votes of the American people to place them in possession of the government. We have what is called the Union Party, led by Mr. Bell of Tennessee. We have what is called the Democrat Party, led by Stephen A. Douglas of Illinois. We have the party called the Seceders, or the Slave Code Democrats, led by John C. Breckinridge of Kentucky. And then we have the Republican Party, led by Abraham Lincoln of Illinois. All of these parties ask for your support because they profess to represent some principle. So far as the priceless, the principles of freedom, and the hopes of the black man are concerned, all these parties are barren and unfruitful. Neither of them seeks to lift the Negro out of his fetters and rescue this day from odium and disgrace. Take Abraham Lincoln. I want to know if any man can tell me the difference between the anti-slavery of Abraham Lincoln and the anti-slavery of the old Whig Party, or the anti-slavery of Henry Clay. Why? There is no difference between them. Abraham Lincoln is simply a Henry Clay Whig. And he believes, just as Henry Clay believed, in regard to this question. And Henry Clay was just as odious to the anti-slavery cause and anti-slavery men as ever was John C. Calhoun. In fact, he did as much to perpetuate Negro slavery in this country as any other man who has ever lived. Henry Clay once said that this is property which the law declares to be property, and that 200 years of legislation has sanctioned and sanctified property in slaves. Wherever Henry Clay is today, in the universe of God, that atheistic lie is with him, with all its tormenting memories. I know Abraham Lincoln, and I know something about his anti-slavery. I know the Republicans do not like this kind of talk because they are willing to steal our thunder. They are unwilling to submit to the conditions imposed upon that party that assumes to be anti-slavery. They say that they cannot go as fast as you anti-slavery men go in this matter, that they cannot afford to be uncompromisingly honest or so radical as you Garrisonians, that they want to take time, that they want to do the work gradually. They say we must not be in too great a hurry to overthrow slavery. At least we must take half a loaf. We cannot give the whole. Now, my friends, I believe that the very best way to overthrow slavery in this country is to occupy the highest possible anti-slavery ground. Washington Irving tells a story of a Dutchman who wanted to jump over a ditch, and he went back 3 miles in order to get a good start. And when he got up to the ditch, he sat down on the wrong side to get his breath. So it is with these political parties that they are compelled, they say, when they get up to the ditch of slavery, to stop and take a breath. I do not believe in the anti-slavery of Abraham Lincoln, because he is on the side of this slave power of which I am speaking, that has the possession of the federal government. What does he propose to do? Simply to let the people and the territories regulate their domestic institutions in their own way. In the great debate between Lincoln and Douglas in Illinois, when he was interrogated as to whether he was in favor of the admission of more slave states in the Union, he said that so long as we own the territories, he did not see any other way of doing than to admit those states when they made application with or without slavery.